Well, it wasn't six straight overtime games between the Avs and the New York Rangers, although we were 14.6 seconds away from having that happen. The Avs kill off a late Cale Makar penalty. He comes out of the penalty box, breaks up a New York Rangers pass, gets on the offensive. The Avs go on a 3-on-1, and Cale Makar finds none other than Arturi Lehkonen on the back door, opens up for a one-timer, bangs it off the back bar over Igor Shesterkin, who lets up 5 goals this afternoon in a back-to-back matinee. Makar, Necas star in the Broadway matinee, and the Avs win 5-4 in regulation. And holy smokes, Mark Springer, did they need to find a way to get 2 points in that one?
Well, yeah, especially going up 2-0 in that game, and then going up, what was it, 4-2? They were up 4-2 in this game. Yes. And damn, should have been 5-3. Well, I say should have been, could have been 5-3 if
Could have
not
been.
for some goaltender interference. Miles Wood on Alexis Lafreniere, possibly pushing him into Shesterkin. Cale Makar, at that moment, we thought had his second career hat trick, but we'll take a game-winning primary assist. And, okay, the holding of the stick on the aforementioned Alexis Lafreniere, certainly not intentional by Cale Makar. Cale Makar, as quoted by Gabe Landeskog, is the best person in the world. My man really, he doesn't take many penalties at all. He plays the game the right way, is such a clean player. That's more Lafreniere putting his stick in that area, and Makar just, there's a lot of chaos with the puck coming towards net. He's just trying to move and make a play, and the stick gets caught up in there. Fine. I guess by the letter of the law, it's holding the stick. Intent or no intent, they'll call letter of the law. I get it. But that's sweet justice. I mean, that's, you put Cale in the box. Okay, fine. The second he gets out of the box, he steals a cross-sized blue line pass, goes coast to coast. Lehkonen tails him. Makar finds him. This was the Cale Makar game. I love Mikko Rantanen. He's a great player. But I'd question how good Mikko Rantanen really is. I have never questioned how good Cale Makar really is. That one is obvious. He is the best defenseman in the league. He's the best defenseman since Bobby Orr. He is an all-time, truly generational talent. And you pay that man whatever it takes. Cale Makar, this was your day. And man, it was fun to see.
Makar's 3 points rockets him up to 56 on the year, which is tied for 11th in the NHL behind Travis Konechny and Jack Hughes. Martin Necas gets his first 2 assists as a member of the Avs, and he was once again the most dangerous player on the ice with the puck on his stick. And I know he doesn't score tonight. There's other guys out there with more points. Obviously, Cale has 2 goals and 1 assist today, but 5-on-5, the highest expected goals for player in the entire game, yet again, Martin Necas. And his 2 assists get him up to 57. He's now top 10 in the NHL in scoring. We mentioned Arturi Lehkonen scores his 20th goal of the year to end this game with 14 seconds to go. That's his 15th 5-on-5 goal this season. 15 at 5-on-5, tied for 8th in the National Hockey League. Again, I don't want to shovel gravel on Mikko's body. I love that player. I think he is sensational. I think his jersey should be retired whenever he hangs him up here in Colorado. I love that player. Rantanen's tied for 55th in the NHL in 5-on-5 goals.
Wow.
Arturi Lehkonen is 8th. 8th.
Well, the thing that is really sticking out to me about Necas, definitely today, was, I mean, he gets net front. Mikko would do that. I always, wanted him to play more. We talked about this season, the physical play or sometimes lack thereof of Mikko Rantanen. And Raj, you astutely point out that, he's got to protect his body. He's a very skilled player. The more dirty areas you go into, the more likely you are to get hurt and not be available for your team.
And that's
Netchis,
one of the biggest check marks for Mikko Rantanen in his career is availability.
sure, yeah, no, he was rarely hurt. So the maybe perceived or actual strategy of protecting his body, smart, keeps him on the ice. Netchis gets net front. Netchis hunts for pucks. Mikko has speed. Netchis has more speed. And one thing, so the power play, they
Power
got
play was nice today, Spring.
power play goal, and you talked about this, and obviously it struggled a little bit in game number one with Netchis, but now the ability to maybe shake some things up, positioning wise. Well, Netchis, they wanted to start him on the right wing on the power play, like they did with Mikko. And I do think there will be a little bit of some growing pains with Drouin on that left side. He's not as dangerous. You want that, or on the right side. You want that left-handed shot on that right side. Drouin won't be able to do what Mikko did, but Netchis provides
Certainly not.
flexibility. He can rove in front of net. He can rove and occupy the left wing, and that allows Nathan MacKinnon to rove and occupy other areas. We saw the sequence on that one power play in the second period where Netchis hit two posts on one
The
timer.
best power play they had in a month.
And he had there were multiple looks, not just the two posts that he hit. He had the puck with options on that left side a couple times beyond the two posts that he hit. But it allows MacKinnon to rove. The rotations now, you can move players in and around this power play one. And I wonder what it's going to look like with Nichushkin back, because Netchis has shown he can occupy the net front. That's where Val thrives. They're going to have a lot of flexibility coming up here.
So the way that Edmonton does it, watch, if you guys can watch a lot of Edmonton hockey over the next couple of days before Nichushkin comes back. Let's say we don't think Nichushkin's coming back until after the Four Nations face-off. So let's say over the course of February, if and when you can, watch Edmonton Oilers power plays, because while the Avs now have a lack of left-handed shooting on their power play, the Oilers have always had a lack of right-handed shooting on their power play. And what that allows them to do, while you don't have these two bombardiers on your flanks, MacKinnon and Rantanen just teeing up on slap shot regatta being fed by Cale Makar, what Edmonton does is Connor McDavid, as you said, rove, right? He roams around the ice and then starts to get into the middle of the ice. And that's when it gets truly dangerous, because if you get in between those dots with a shooter like that, you start to eventually get to shoot at 6 feet of net rather than 2.5 or 3 feet of net. Just wait for Nathan MacKinnon's going to get lost a few times here, because he's going to be buzzing around the zone. Necas is going to go from the net front out to the flank, where he's a fine one-time player. You saw it a couple of times today. You mentioned the two posts at the end of that power play in the second period. It's going to allow Nathan MacKinnon to just start to buzz around the offensive zone. I think it could have been, it's sneaky, one of the best parts of the trade, because it forces you to do something else. And Ray Bennett very clearly wasn't willing to do anything else when he had his two guys, because as we've shown you over the last 5 years, Spring, the Avs have the 5th best power play in the National Hockey League at like 25%. So eventually the numbers were going to tell you that if you keep banging your head against the wall, you're eventually going to punch through that drywall. Now you have to force yourself to like build another wall. And I love that.
Yeah, and speaking of MacKinnon on the power play, and I forgot to address this on yesterday's show because I saw on Twitter DJ Triple T hit us both up, Raj, the Avs in arena DJ, who is a great dude, does a great job. He asked us why Nathan MacKinnon is not pulling the trigger, or had not been pulling the trigger as often this season on those one-time slap shots on the left side. And coming out of today's game, now I'm wondering how often, or as often, he will be on that left side. We might see him in a variety of positions, more positions on the power play. So that question might start to become more of a moot point. But regardless, he will often still find himself on the left side. That will still be his home base, with opportunities for that one-time shot on the left side. Now, I don't know. I don't have the answer. The only one person with that answer is Nathan MacKinnon. My thought, though, my theory is that that was a staple shot of Nathan MacKinnon, and maybe in his mind, he started to feel like teams were keying in on that. Goaltenders were anticipating the one-time shot and
Right.
closing off their their the right post for the goaltender quicker. That was their instinct, just to get over there and close that post off. I think Nathan MacKinnon is going with the setup route. He's trying to throw other teams off the scent and show that I will throw this into the bumper. And it was working. It's worked a lot this season. Colton fed off of it earlier this season. Drouin can score from there. Now he'll be more on the right wing, more. Lehkonen, especially when Nichushkin is back, can score in that bumper. Nate is trying to show teams, I will set up the center ice pass. And I will be interested to see, because Nate was really wanting to go cross ice. He would go all the way cross ice over to Mikko sometimes, looking for that long one-time setup. That might not be as available now with him gone. I don't think Drouin is going to be as effective as Mikko on those long cross ice ones. But I think Nate is simply giving teams different looks to throw him off the center of the one-timer for, when the playoffs come around, and then he'll really look for that thing.
Without a doubt, we'll have to see who's going to be that left-handed shot on that flank, and they're going to continue to run the 1-3-1. Like, there's not a lot of power plays that don't run 1-3-1s these days. It's in vogue in the league, and it should be. I just think you're going to see a 1-3-1 with way more movement as compared to what we saw over the last month, where it was just let's place guys in an inverted diamond with a dude in the middle and just stand there and hopefully something works. Either it's a one-timer or you make 6 different passes and someone's open back door. Now you're going to see all this buzzing around from Necas and MacKinnon. I actually can't wait to see what this team does with it. And New York, man, that's not the same team that struggled all of December. This is a different hockey club. This is a club that has 19 points in the month of January that's vaulted themselves right back into the conversation for being in the Eastern Conference playoffs. If I'm an East Coast team, I don't want to see the Rangers in the playoffs. That's a good hockey team. Shesterkin didn't have his greatest day, but I was nervous about today's game. I looked at as second leg of a back-to-back, a rested Rangers team that's red hot right now. I probably at the beginning of the day would have been like, if you get a point, it's a huge win. The fact that you come out with 2, you don't even have to go to overtime against them. Resiliency, the penalty kill looked good. The power play was better today. Jack Drury scores his first goal as a member of the Avs. And what do you have to do, right? The easiest way to score in this league, man, you don't have to be Nate. You don't have to be Connor McDavid. You don't have to be Marty Necas. You just have to go to the blue paint. Go. That's where all the goals are scored, within 3 to 5 feet of that crease. Even if you're not the most skilled player in the world, and Jack Drury is wonderfully skilled, just go to that area, and lo and behold, he scores.
Man, the Avs are so deep at center. And Casey Middlestat has been playing better over the last week or so. I thought he played well in Boston yesterday. I thought he played well today, and even in a handful of games before the Mikko trade, I thought he was starting to turn a corner a little bit. Ross Colton, they're so deep right now that Ross Colton is essentially a wing for this team. Necas can play center, but largely in his NHL career, he's been a wing, and I think he should stay there.
I
With
don't think
that,
they want to play him in the middle. They asked Bednar that after last night's game, and his answer was pretty telling.
and he mostly played wing with the Hurricanes. With that speed, you want that speed on the wing. You can get a little more dangerous when you have speed on the wings and more reliability, playmaking vision at center. And Middlestat has that, and he's been showing that more of late. And they're so deep that, Ross Colton is playing wing now. He absolutely can play center. Drury and Parker Kelly, Parker Kelly to me has earned he could be a staple in the bottom 6. Drury hadn't put up many points recently with the Carolina Hurricanes. In fact, in the month of January, He didn't have a single point with Carolina. His last point was against the Avs in early December playing for Carolina. He had an assist on December 5th. He hasn't had a single point since December 5th, but he's a young guy. What is he, like 24-ish years old? 24 years old. Second round pick. Can win faceoffs. We've seen that. Not a world beater in the faceoff dot, but can win them. Is formidable in the faceoff circle.
I think his percentages are actually pretty high.
And as his and as a young 24-year-old player who has only intermittently been in the Hurricanes lineup, he fits a lot of the boxes that you want to check for an Avs bottom six center. So whether it's Kelly, whether it's Drury, these guys play hard, get net front, win faceoffs. Jack Drury scored in his uncle's barn today. And we did not, Alex.
We didn't get it, man. I texted him. I would say, Uncle, damn it.
Oh my gosh. We were hoping that Connor McGahey would say Uncle, if Jack Drury scored in just this one game.
It was the one game.
In Madison Square Garden, where his uncle Chris Drury, former Av, I'll call him an Avs legend, is the general manager of the New York Rangers. Say Uncle would have been the perfect call. Connor did not go with it. So Connor texted me and he said, basically, I will translate his text. He was concerned about disrespecting the Drurys. Now, I would, and I didn't want to argue with Connor, but I would argue I don't think it's that disrespectful at all. I think it all would have been in good fun, but Connor is the consummate professional. I understand erring on the side of caution. Would have been an awesome call.
I appreciate it and I understand it. And you know what? I did what Connor asked today. I didn't tweet during the game. I was even texting Connor during the game. And as soon as I texted him, New York scored to make it 2-1. And then I texted him again after they scored to make it 2-1, being like, I can't believe that, like, it is. It's me. It's a me problem. Like, me just saying anything out loud about the Avs is bad luck. And then I sent a second text message right after that, and 30 seconds later, they tie the game up at 2. And Connor goes, just sit in silence for once in your goddamn life. And that's when I quote tweet. I was like, all right, I'm not allowed to say anything. And you know what? Look what happens. After my long silence today, you finally get a win with 14 seconds to go.
Yeah, there's no doubt that was the key of the game. Raj not tweeting was the first star.
G Bruin goes, but that third period, though, we were really on the back foot there. Yeah, I expected that second leg of a back-to-back, 2 straight early afternoon games on the East Coast after what I'm assuming was a very late night on Thursday, and then on Friday, and then you play Saturday in the middle of the day with all those emotions from the Rantanen trade. You lose. That's a big letdown. You got to get on a flight, get to Manhattan, get into the hotel later than you want to. I expected them to start to deteriorate in the second half of this game, and they did, but you held on for a win. That's the reason why you try and gas yourself in back-to-backs. Typically, you'll see a team go balls to the freaking wall for the first 20 to 25 minutes of the game and hope that you can just hold on to a 2-goal lead. That's why it helps that you scored 3 in the first.
Yeah, and you're talking about the Rangers, and they are in a better way now than they were a few weeks ago. But today, like, for them, that's still a loss. That it goes to show what type of season it's been for them. Just can't seem to get quite above neutral, but they've been playing better of late. And on paper, it is a very dangerous team. It's the best team of the 3 they're going to see on this road trip for all intents and purposes, despite their struggles. I mean, that is one of the top teams on paper in the Eastern Conference. So, if the Avs had one practice, if Necas could have practiced with them on Friday, they would have gone in and beaten Boston yesterday, because we saw today, what one game, what a little extra experience added to the chemistry. It was much cleaner today against a better opponent. And New York outshoots Colorado by 16, but the Avs were overall cleaner. And yes, when they're up 4-2 in the third period, they did go into more defense, park the bus. They went into that mode, which is understandable, like you said, Raj, considering it's the second day of a back-to-back. And you have Mackenzie Blackwood back there too. They kind of just were leaning up 4-2 of, okay, we did the dirty work. Let's play some good defense and let's lean on Mackenzie Blackwood. In fact, Blackwood makes a tremendous save on Philip Hedl. The Rangers get their first power play of this game in the third period. And at the very end of it, little puck fight in the corner, centering pass finds a wide open Philip Hedl as the Avs were so focused on that puck in the corner. And Blackwood comes out and he's big, and you can see Hedl looking, where's my lane? Where's my opening? And Blackwood gave him nothing. Hedl panics and tries to beat him 5-hole. Didn't work. Blackwood stuffed it. Ultimately, yes. And we've seen the Avs do this in years past. When you go into park the bus mode, when you go into let's try not to lose this game mode instead of let's go win this thing, it bites them. But second day of a back-to-back, that's not going to be the case in the playoffs of anything. And ultimately, the right team won this game. Ultimately, Cale Makar was the difference, and the right team won.
You mentioned the save on Philip Hedl. The one that gets lost in this because of the heroics from Lehkonen and Makar, the glove save that he has on Mika Zibanejad on the one-timer and that power play at the end of the game was an unreal save. Zibanejad's one of the better one-time players in the league, man. I think he is so underrated in that off-wing spot. He can laser a puck. And I think once he hit that, he thought, all right, game over. This is off the post and in. No shot he can save this thing. Blackwood sticks out his glove, goes into the splits, extends as far as he can, snags it out of midair. And then if I'm correct, the Avs I think they called the timeout after that. It may have been just before, but I know that they called a timeout in that power play. I think they did it right after that glove save. You regroup, you clear the puck, you win the game. Blackwood he wasn't phenomenal tonight, but he made a couple of phenomenal saves that are direct contributions to you winning this hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, you're in New York. They're a very skilled, higher powered offensive team. You can have great goaltending. You're going to find yourselves in 3-3, 4-4 games in the NHL. Like, you're just going to. That was Shesterkin versus Blackwood. That's one of the better goaltending matchups you could throw out there right now in the NHL. But and certainly the Avs playing yesterday affects this as well. You're still going to find yourself in 4-4 games. But what Blackwood is going to do is he's going to minimize it by and large. This was the first higher scoring game that he's been a part of, I think, period. I think this is the first higher scoring game for him as an Av, period, in terms of the other team getting some against him. And those are going to happen. This is one where you would have looked at and said, this is a candidate. Second day of a back-to-back in New York against the Rangers. Mm-hmm. He might not be able to hold them to 2 or fewer like he has been in the vast majority of his starts.
And this might be a little bit of the second leg of a back-to-back. Have you taken a peek at the time on ice today?
I have not. I mean, I saw yesterday Necas played like a career high?
Yeah, he played like 25 minutes, which was just, we're going to lean on our top guys because we're all like, everybody's mind is flying right now. If you look at the time on ice today, there's not a single Avs forward that plays north of 20 minutes. Nathan MacKinnon plays 19 minutes. Necas plays 19 and a half. The forward with the least amount of ice today was Miles Wood, who comes back from his long absence on the injured reserve list. So all of your forwards, you started to spread your time on ice through 4 forward lines, which is something that the Avs have been trying to do and failing, unfortunately, at because they've been so top heavy over the last 5 seasons. And they've been very successful even dealing with being top heavy. If you look a little bit further, while that looks closer to what they want to be, right? Because if you heard Chris McFarland yesterday, we want to be a deeper team. We need to be a 4-line team to win a cup. The forward unit time on ice tells you that. The defensive unit tells you something different.
Yes. I mean, you got Taves and Makar playing over 25 minutes. You got your second pair playing over 22 and a half minutes. And we've talked about it. I mean, the area to address is that third D pair. Hell, I even saw someone mention, and I don't hate the idea of a not even necessarily someone who would be great for a third D pair, but a second D pair to play with Gerard perhaps and move Manson down to third D pair. Either way, they have 4 defensemen they like and rely on and 2 that they don't.
You could argue they've got 4 that they don't. Shillington, DeHaan,
Sure.
Malinsky, and Middleton. There's 4 of them that I think that McFarland and Bednar are going. We hope that they were going to work out, but right now they aren't. So they're leaning heavily on their top 4 defensemen. And this has been a year where like Josh Manson hasn't been the most consistent defender on this team at all. So it might be a better pairing to slot him in to give him, 14 minutes a night on your bottom pairing if you can do that. But right now you don't have that ability. While we know McFarland isn't done dealing, I wonder what gets done first. Do you bring in another big time second center? Because that's been all the rage, right? It's been is it JT Miller? Is it Sidney Crosby? Is it a player that hasn't been named quite yet? Is it so easy as just waiting for Casey Middlestat to turn the corner, which he has been better as of late? I don't think they want to really move on from that player. They signed him to a long-term deal. I think they make a move for a D-man before they make a move for anything else.
I agree. And to get a quote unquote upgrade at second line center, the position that won't go away ever since Nazem Kadri left the Avs. And man, we sure thought, and it still very well might be, that Casey Middlestat is that guy. And like I said earlier in the show, past week or so, I can live with him at second line center, especially when you think about, Nichushkin coming back. And hey, first of all, shout out to Juuso Parssinen playing with look, that's a good player. And and this ties into what you were talking about with no one playing more than 20 minutes, and also conversely, no one playing less than 10 minutes. There's no Yuri Inola playing 5 minutes, and I like Ivan. It might be good he's still very young, like 22 years old.
No Curtis McDermott playing 232.
Yeah, exactly.
That?
Ivan's the one I see a future for, but it might be good for him to continue to develop with the Eagles, because right now, today was that with Miles Wood back, they had 4 lines. There's not a single player out there that you would say, I don't know about that. So when Nichushkin's back, Parssinen is part of this right now. Nichushkin now creates a true odd man out. Who is it? It's either, is it Parssinen, who would go from second line to out of the lineup? Is it Kiviranta?
I don't know.
Tough decision.
Kiviranta's a nice little like Swiss Army knife. I'm looking at the lines right now. It's probably Kiviranta before anyone, because they like Parsonen's size and they like his versatility. Like Kivi's a really good bottom 6 player and certainly a good bottom forward line player, and he can kill penalties. The fact that you now have Jack Drury, who can kill penalties, by the way, 56% career faceoff man.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's great. I think he was a little under 50% yesterday and just a tick under 50 today, but a 56 career is tremendous.
Tremendous. It's probably Kiviranta, because Parssinen can play. They'll play him anywhere in the lineup. They probably don't want to play him on the first, but they'll play him second, third, fourth line if they need to. So
he's got
probably
size.
The guy to go. I guess the bigger question is, if Landeskog comes back, is Parssinen the first to go, or is it Parker Kelly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But see, and had they extended Mikko to that big money deal, you become forced to have fourth lines of Inola, etc. And you're playing your top line 23 plus minutes a night, and you cannot spread the money out and the talent out 1 through 4 lines the way that we saw this roster constructed for today's game. And this is without Val Nichushkin. And even today, there's not a single player because of Juuso Parssinen playing so well. And again, I said it yesterday, what a sneaky little acquisition. Gosh, the Nashville Predators are stupid for just giving him to the Avs. And who knows? Juuso Parssinen might not be much, but damn, there's clearly something there. The flexibility that not having $14 million to Mikko Rantanen gives you. You saw it play out today, and it's going to play out even more so next season and years beyond.
If you're looking at defensemen that the Avs might be keying in on, David Savard has been a name that's been thrown around there, the longtime veteran defenseman now playing for the Montreal Canadiens. But look at Montreal. Like, Montreal is a playoff threat this year. That's a fun team to watch, and I don't think they want to be selling at the deadline. I think Martin St. Louis is looking at, well, I've had this young core for a couple of years, and we haven't punched through in a relatively weaker Eastern Conference. I think they're looking at this year to be, all right, this is the first time that the Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, this kid, Dobosh in net, who looks like Carey Price, is that this is a year for them. All right, we need to get in as the 7 or an 8 seed, get a taste. I don't know if David Savard's really a guy that like they want to deal. He's a little slower. He would certainly be a third pairing D-man. If Scott Mayfield is available from the New York Islanders, who you're going to see on Tuesday evening, former DU guy, I think that's a solid option. He still, for me, profiles as a third pairing D, but I think on this team, he would jump up into number 2. He's a bigger bodied D-man, stay at home, mean motherfucker in front of the net. I think he's a good guy to play with. He's a great guy off the ice. The other one that I would look at, and you would have to do some gymnastics because of his contract length and because of the dollar amount. If you're looking for a true second pairing guy, Seth Jones would be kind of perfect.
Well, how many years are left on his deal?
I'll take a look right now.
I know he's pricey. What's he, like, $9 million? He might be even a little more than that because I remember when he was a free agent not too long ago.
Seth Jones is in the third year of an 8-year contract that expires in 2030 when he is age 35. It's a $9.5 million cap hit, and you can only retain 50%. So you can retain, what is that, $4.75 million, either by one team or by two teams. You might have to have another team come in and launder that, like where Jones gets traded from Chicago to another team, and then Chicago retains 25%, and the other team retains 25%, and then he comes to the Avs, and he has 5 years remaining on that deal at 4 3/4. But if you sign a guy at 4 3/4, that $5.1 million cap space that you just opened up, it goes poof.
Well, I was going to say the Chicago Blackhawks apparently love to eat money. They're the team that is retaining half of Mikko Rantanen's salary.
Yes, 50% of it.
So does that mean, because you said that, launder through another team, does that mean Mikko Rantanen was technically a Chicago Blackhawk for 1 second?
Yes.
Nice.
The trade was technically Rantanen was traded to Chicago. Chicago then retained 50% of his salary and sent Rantanen to Carolina. Carolina sent a 3rd-round draft pick back to Chicago, and Carolina then sent 2 players to the Avalanche in exchange for there's a guy that I didn't know. So Rantanen was traded for a player with Chicago. The player that the Avs got went to Carolina. Carolina traded Necas and Drury for the player that the Avs got, and then Carolina traded a 3rd-round draft pick to Chicago for Mikko Rantanen.
The Blackhawks were hilarious in that trade because they're, retaining, and granted, it's just for the rest of this season, and it doesn't really matter for them at all, but half of Mikko's salary, and then they trade Taylor Hall to the Hurricanes in exchange for a 3rd-round pick that was originally theirs, that they had previously traded to Carolina. And they just so at the end of the day, all they did was they got their 3rd-round pick back.
Spring, how could I have forgotten the name Niels Juntorp?
Niels Juntorp.
Juntorp.
Never heard of him.
6th round draft pick in 2022.
Is that common for a team to eat salary for how many years is left on Seth Jones's deal? 5?
5 right now. It would be 4 starting next season. That's a long time. It's a really long time.
Obviously, he does not fit into their window. But what would fit into the Blackhawks window is the prospects we talked about that the Avs have yesterday. Nabokov, Richie, Guliev, the draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to throw in more than you would like to incentivize them to eat that salary or eat some of it.
If he was an $8 million player, it'd be so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
4 3/4 is a lot of money, man. And you can't. So a player's contract can only be 50% retained in total. So it's not like you could go to Chicago and say, hey, you guys take 50% of this contract, and then we're going to have you trade him to San Jose, and then San Jose is going to take 25% of the contract. So then Jones would only be like a $2.5 million player. I know my math is wrong, but you get the gist right now. You can't do that. 50% is the max amount of retained salary at any point in a player contract.
Well, now I'm going to have to start looking around the league at defensemen who would make sense. Here's a name. Because the exercise is pick a team that is going to be sellers. And ideally, obviously guys with expiring contracts, but the Avs also like to get guys who might have an extra year on their deal, at least, like Martin Necas. Jamie Oleksiak with the Seattle Kraken.
Seattle's going to be a seller.
4.6 mil this year and next year. And you could get some salary retention there too.
I would do it. With salary retention, yeah. I would. He's slow. He doesn't fit.
That'd be a third pair guy. That'd be a third pair guy. Maybe that could be, him and Manson. That Oleksiak a left-handed shot, Manson right-handed shot. That could be something right there. But again, that was the first team I looked at. I'm sure there's names that make even more sense. But yeah, the guys are out there for Colorado to go get second, third, D pair. We saw him do it with Sean Walker last year. I assume that there are plenty of names this year.
I don't think San Jose would want to move on from Mario Ferraro, 26-year-old left shot defenseman, big time PK guy. He reminds me of like a little bit bigger and faster version of. Do you remember Ryan Ellis with the Nashville Predators? Shorter guy, big old beard, like a Justin Turner type beard. Who just he was a sponge. He just ate up shots, just soaked shots. And Ferraro's kind of that guy too, but he's got a little bit more offensive pep to his game. Ferraro could be a dude. He's signed through next season at like 3.5. I'd take a peek at San Jose.
And even if they like him, and at 26, that's still young. He'll get more money when he's up. Would San Jose want to pay that? Does that really fit into how young they want to be? Because Macklin Celebrini is very young. So yeah, even if they like him, they could still move him, knowing that he could be making north of 5 when he's up, and they just wouldn't want to pay that.
There's not many other D-men that I see. Like you could think about Brian Dumoulin in Anaheim. I don't know if I would want Savard on this team. I just don't think he's got enough legs. Marcus Pettersson in Pittsburgh doesn't feel great to me. He's more of an offensive D-man. You don't need another offensive defenseman right now. You need at not at worst, but like for lack of a better term, at worst a two-way guy. Stay-at-home defenseman is what they should be looking for. Shot blocker, net front presence, guy who's willing to go into the corners, eat minutes. That's who they're looking for. You're not looking for a guy to boost your scoring on the blue line. You don't need it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, and I'm seeing a lot of people be like, "Oh, they should just trade Middlestat back for Byram."
Did you imagine
acting like look, Byram to me was definitely far more offensive leaning. Look, was he a solid defenseman and can make decent defensive plays? Yes, but he's more of the get out and run defenseman, and so
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's really what they need actually is a Bowen Byram.
No, I wouldn't make that trade. I've seen other people thrown out, like Cody Ceci, who's an aging defenseman. I think he's with San Jose. I wouldn't touch Cody Ceci with the 10-foot pole. I didn't think Cody Ceci was good 5 years ago. I don't think he's good now. I would take David Savard before Cody Ceci. I'll tell you that. It's going to be an interesting, month, right? We've got just north of a month until the trade deadline hits on March 7th. It'll be really fun to watch. But before we get out of here, Spring, we're going into halftime here with the Philly and Washington game, getting ready for Kansas City and Buffalo today, 2 hours from right now in the AFC Championship. Final thoughts on today and getting ready for Tuesday night's game against the Islanders. Islanders have won 4 straight. They're hot. They're not a good team, but they're hot.
Yeah, it was another, the reps they got in the Boston game, that was like practice yesterday. That's essentially what that was. And I'm sure that after the game, and we saw a shot during the Bruins game yesterday of that top line, the new top line going to the bench. McKinnon, Drouin, Necas, and Necas was sitting in the middle of Drouin and McKinnon. Drouin and McKinnon obviously have played a lot of hockey together in their careers far before they were on the Avalanche together. Those two dudes know each other. That's probably why Drouin gets that look on the top line instead of a Lehkonen or even a Colton. It's the chemistry between Nate and Drouin. By the way, welcome back to the Colorado Avalanche, Jonathan Drouin. You are now very likely to be an Av next season and in years beyond. I know Nathan McKinnon. And we heard his comment. Look, when we heard from Nathan McKinnon after yesterday's game, he was shocked and he was disappointed. But I also did hear in his voice, what he was saying, an understanding of the business. It was hard to lose his friend and a very good player, Mikko Rantanen. Jonathan Drouin is not the player that Rantanen is, but Nate loves that guy too. So Nate might lose Mikko, but he gets to keep Drouin. And in yesterday's game, Drouin and McKinnon are chatting each other up about what they want to do out there, and Necas is right in the middle, soaking it all up. And all it took was one little practice game, and 24 hours later, an exponential increase in chemistry from that top line.
I would hope that that Drouin knows enough not to ask for too much.
I think
Don't get greedy. Sign a long-term deal. Take a little bit of a hit off the top. Sign some incentives. That's what you need to do.
Look, we thought Drouin might have taken a multi-year deal from another team this past offseason, but he decided to re-sign with the Avs on a 1-year, somewhat team-friendly deal. I think he now gets multiple years and somewhere in the $5 million range. And I think considering where his career was to now playing with Nathan McKinnon, I absolutely see that happening.
You think it's $5 million, man? Because I know he bet on himself last year, and then he bet on himself again this year at $2.5 million, and he's a UFA at age 30.
The age 30 is interesting.
Has he done enough right now as an Av? And he's resurrected his career, but has he done enough to double what he's making this year?
No, you're right. It might not get to 5. It might not.
5 years, $3.5 to $4 million, I think, is the sweet spot for that player. I don't think it's 5 because he's been injured, man. And he's been great when he's been on the ice. He's been a fit when he's on the ice, but he hasn't been healthy. And that's been one of the biggest knocks on Jonathan Drouin across his career. He's been a bit of a Band-Aid. I don't think it's 5. Like, I think he's a sub-5 player, and I think they can get him here.
I don't
Has
disagree.
Has he done enough to double his contract?
No, you're right. When you look at his production and his points, but here he is playing on the top line for the Colorado Avalanche. I just wonder if other teams will say, "Hey, we want a top liner from the Avs," and there's a reason you're playing on that top line. But also, other teams could, and we'll see what Mikko does with the Hurricanes. Because for every bit of benefit that Miko has or had playing with Nate, how much does Drouin benefit from that as well? And if other teams are like, well, hey, Miko's production has dipped since leaving Nate, other teams might be like, well, what's Drouin going to be if he's not playing with Nate?
I can't wait for the off season. It's like one of my favorite days. It is a kid in a candy store day for me. Is July 1st of every single year. Free agency opens up, and I scroll Twitter and wait for fridge bombs and wait for Bob McKenzie. I love January 1st. Cannot wait for it. All right, Spring. It's going to do it for us today. Halftime in the NFC Championship game is either happening right now or it's moments away. It's a minute and 6 seconds away. Philly's got the ball in the Washington 24. Saquon's already got 2 touchdowns and 80 yards with a 60-yard bomb. Philly's knocking on the door, trying to extend that lead going into the second half. The Bills and the Chiefs coming up at 4:30. Give me a score prediction for Bills and Chiefs because I'm not allowed to predict scores, but I can.
I suck with scores, but I will tell you, I think the Chiefs are winning this game.
I fucking hate you.
I'm sorry, man.
You suck. you and Mike Sanford, like, shut up.
Look, I mean, it's what you want to happen versus what you think will happen, okay? And if I'm betting American dollars, I'm sorry, I'm putting them on the Chiefs.
I have my wagers are both teams to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half. That's the only wager that I have going on.
So I assume you got pretty good value on that.
Yeah, the odds are they're up there. They're up there.
Not bad.
All right, Spring, we're getting out of here. For Spring, for our friends at Safeway who bring you guys Between the Pipes, I'm Alex Ryan. We appreciate you guys as always. Next time we'll talk to you will be Tuesday evening, 5:30 puck drop on the island against New York. 5 p.m. pregame show with Mark Bertinoli on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Spring and I will be live on all of these digital outlets at probably, let's call it 8 p.m. that night. Can't wait to talk to you guys then. And even though Spring is a Chiefs fan today, apparently, go Bills.